Welcome to this week's episode, everyone. I'm pretty excited for this one. I got a tablet sent to me from Huion. It's a Kamvas Pro 16. I'll be unboxing it. I'll also be comparing it to my current one, which is the Wacom Cintiq. And you draw on the screen as well as this as the Cintiq, so I'm pretty curious to see the difference. From my knowledge, this is a much cheaper option than the Cintiq, and I'm curious the quality difference on them. So let's unbox it and see what's inside. We have the tablet itself. It's pretty big. I think my Cintiq screen is a bit bigger, but the size feels pretty good. Let's put it to the side. We have the manual, I think. I usually don't read manuals because I think most product nowadays you just plug and play and just give it a spin. They have a glove, which is pretty good actually. I remember there was a phase where everyone used to buy gloves, but the fact that they're sending it is a pretty cool idea. And I'm curious to see how it works, you know, if your hand glides more on the canvas and doesn't get so sticky or sweaty. Curious to try that out, see how it feels. We got our pen as well. It's pretty light. I remember there was a few versions where some tablet makers, they're putting the battery inside the pen, which made it pretty heavy. And when you hold it all day, every day, you don't want it to be heavy. We got our cables. We got our, I think it's our pen nibs. A lot of them, which is pretty good. Sometimes you just burn through them. And then we have this our power cable. We have adapter for US, which is great. Yeah, I guess it's the standard, and they just plug this on top of it, and it should work. Let's check out the tablet itself. It's pretty light, pretty thin as well, which is pretty nice. You have a lot of the buttons on the side. So for me, whenever I work on tablets, I never use the buttons. Even on my Cintiq, I never use them. So it's probably not something I'm going to play around too much. I'll try it out, but with my workflow, I usually just use my keyboard. Let's just get rid of the plastic. Yeah, it looks good. I'm excited to give it a spin and see how it feels. There's no stand for it, so it would be pretty flat on the table itself. I'm curious to see how that feels, because for my Cintiq, I have a stand to get a bit more of an angle because it makes it easier. But then again, when I bought my Cintiq, I did not get a stand either. It's something I had to purchase separately. So I'm going to plug it in, install it, and I'm going to try some painting on it. So I'm super excited, and I'll see you in a moment. So prior to recording, I sat down and did some sketching just to make sure my brush settings is set up. I drew up this image that I'll be painting throughout the video. And then I just kind of jumped into the painting process. When I first installed the tablet, it was pretty straightforward. They did say you have to uninstall drivers from other tablets to avoid problems. I thought I could get around it. I thought maybe I wouldn't have any problems because I kind of didn't want to uninstall the other drivers, but I did run into some issues. So I went back and I uninstalled my Wacom drivers, and afterwards it was working actually pretty good. The one thing I noticed also is like the calibration. You know, whenever you get a new tablet, you have to calibrate it. And with Wacom is you kind of hit the 4 square corners, and you don't have to be too precisely, and it gets really spot on straight away. In my case, when I did this one, I kind of used the same process. I didn't want to, well, I did, I did hit it spot on, just because that's how I usually calibrate the tablet. I try to be pretty accurate. But I noticed when I was painting my brush and my pen, there was a slight disconnect. And I wasn't quite sure what the problem was until I realized I probably messed up the calibration test. So I went back and did that properly, and it worked really good. The hand to brush movement was actually really good. It was spot on. And like I mentioned in the introduction, I'm really curious on the quality difference because this tablet is so much cheaper than a Cintiq, which is what I use all the time. A Cintiq is about $1,600. This tablet is about $500. And honestly, I did not notice any differences in terms of drawing performance. They both have great pressure sensitivity. The tablet reacts to you really well. I didn't have any any problems. The only thing that I did notice was it gets a bit warm on the top right part of the screen. My hand usually doesn't travel that far up, and I don't know the long-term implications of that. I don't think it's a big deal. I don't know if the Cintiq actually has a similar problem. Because it's a bigger tablet and I usually don't have my hand all over the canvas, it might have something similar as well. But I think for the price you're paying, especially if you're a student, because I remember for me, like purchasing a Cintiq was a big investment, and it took a while for me to feel comfortable with that. So if you really want a tablet to draw on the screen, you don't want to just draw on a tablet, I do think this is actually a pretty good option to think about when you want to find something that you might be interested in. Because the other options are the iPad Pro, which is about $1,000. That is definitely more portable. This is not portable at all. It's a stationary thing you gotta have at home pretty much, unless you have a laptop with you. Also, one thing I noticed when working on this was because it comes without a stand, and there's it's similar to the Cintiq, there's no stand, but my shoulders, my posture wasn't getting very good having the tablet flat on the table, so I borrowed the stand from my wife that she used for her iPad, and it worked a lot better. I felt more comfortable working with it. A stand like that costs about $50 that you're gonna have to put in extra, and I recommend it to get one because for me it was uncomfortable working on a flat surface. It could be because I'm just used to Cintiq having it more of an angle as well, but I do recommend to get a stand with it. On the Cintiq as well, you can kind of attach like a shoulder to the back of the tablet. It's not something you can do on this one, but the stand does a pretty good job without it. And my overall conclusion is I actually quite like the tablet. I think it's pretty good. The price range is really affordable, I think, as well, which is pretty important when you maybe don't have that much of a budget to work with, which is pretty cool. Because I remember when I was looking for tablet, when I started painting, there wasn't a whole lot of options other than Wacom, and I'm glad there is a lot more now. And I think this is probably one of the options I'd recommend you to look into. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed the painting, and I hope you enjoyed the review. And thank you to Huion as well. There's a link below in the description. If you're interested in this tablet, you can check it out. So thanks again, and have a good one.